Hi, I'm J. Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, the outs, and the retcons of our favorite superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X books that come out each week.
This week, I am back in the studio finally, and we are looking at the books of January 27th, 2016.
All right, so first we're going to talk about Extraordinary X-Men number 6, written by Jeff Lemire, with art by Victor Ibáñez. Hey, it's Victor Ibáñez. And colors by J. David Ramos. So this is basically the first story in the second arc of Extraordinary X-Men. We also have a new artist. Before it was Humberto Ramos, now it's Victor Ibáñez.
And man, Ibáñez, I loved him on Storm, but he is working so much better than Ramos for me on this.
Yeah, and I found that to be the case for me as well, and that's strange because I really like Humberto Ramos' art overall. His work with Mike Carey on X-Men ages and ages ago, like the Blinded by the Light story and stuff like that, I thought was stellar. But there's something about Lemire's writing style that I think works a lot better with a more realistic, grounded artist like Victor Ibáñez, especially one who's so good at facial nuance.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. So, second arc, like I said, the X-Men are no longer just, dealing with horrible clouds of mist and having Limbo revealed to us, the reader, and talking mysteriously about Cyclops. Well, okay, there's still some of, I guess, all of those. But now they're actually out superheroing and doing character stuff. And this is what I was looking for. Extraordinary X-Men is supposed to be the flagship book of All New, All Different Marvel, and now it actually is starting to feel like it.
It's not quite all the way there yet for me, but it's definitely moving in that direction. They are running around Weird World right now, which, speaking of Ibáñez, means you get to see his strengths not only with expression, but with weird monsters, too. I mean, that's something this title's had a lot of from the start because of the Limbo stuff, but it continues on here. And I gotta say, for me, the MVP right now is absolutely and unquestionably Piotr Rasputin's facial hair.
It's pretty great. Why did it take so long for Peter to get a kick-ass beard as part of his main look?
What the hell?
Okay, well, that problem has been solved. Speaking of Colossus, so we mentioned in past reviews that it seems kind of weird that he's been portrayed as the strong man, as the brawler, as the fighter, when that hasn't really been him. And now we're starting to see the Colossus we know and love. We're seeing Colossus as lost older brother. We're seeing Colossus as mentor to some of the younger students, who themselves are finally starting to play a role in the book.
As someone who very much needs to be needed and is kind of lost without that.
Yeah, that's Colossus. Similarly, one thing I really enjoyed characterization-wise was Illyana Rasputin. She's a hard character to pin down. I mean, honestly, ever since Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson wrote her back in New Mutants, I feel like nobody's quite gotten her. Right now, it's starting to feel like it. And what does that for me is her finally getting sort of a protege of herself, this girl Sopra who can see other dimensions and talk to demons and stuff. Seeing Illyana with some authority, with the perceiving herself to have the ability to turn somebody else's life around before this other kid goes completely dark, does wonders for her character.
Speaking of mentorship and role changes, I feel like we should really talk about Iceman.
Yeah, we absolutely should. So Iceman in this issue finally addresses the big thing that's been, a big deal for a while, which is to say his younger self coming out. And it's handled just subtly and quietly and relaxedly in a way that feels right. I like it. I like that it's being addressed. I like that it's not this big central story point. I mean, I think when it first happened, it absolutely should have been like it was. But for now, it doesn't need to be that every single time. So well done, Jeff Lemire.
I also really appreciate that he's embraced the time-honored X-Men tradition of an existential angst haircut.
Yes, he's got this sort of like Quentin Quire shaved head side.
He's got a faux hawk.
Is that what that is?
Yes, that's what that is.
Yes, good stuff.
I had that haircut for like 3 years.
You would know then. I've just had this for like 20. Extraordinary X-Men number 6. I gotta say, this book is very rapidly turning around. If this issue is any indication of what it's going to be like from here, I'm feeling pretty damn optimistic about it being the central X book.
So here's something I'd actually say, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this too. I think this would be a really good jumping on point, this particular issue.
I actually would say the same. The initial arc was all right, but it's kind of unnecessary. I mean, as long as you know what the premise is, and honestly, the premise is the X-Men are in limbo. Now they're adventuring. Logan's an old version from the future. Like, that's kind of all you need.
The extraneous X-Men?
Yeah. This issue is the first one where the book really feels like the self I assume it's going to be. So yeah, if you haven't picked it up and you want to start, might as well just start here.
And it does a pretty good job of setting up the context that you need. That's the other thing I was thinking, that you could probably come into this and pick up the salient points as you went along.
Agreed.
Next up is Worst X-Men Ever, number 4. It's written by Max Bemis with pencils and inks by Michael Walsh and colors by Ruth Redmond. Man, this book is so good.
Yeah.
It is just solid as hell. It skirts really closely to smugly self-aware.
Especially the dream sequence at the beginning where the X-Men are being super douchey. It's actually really hilarious.
Yeah, again, it feels very fan-fiction-y in ways that work really well for me. It's being written by people who are obviously very, very, very aware of all of the X-Men cliches, which I guess kind of makes us their precise target audience.
I think it kind of does. Well, also, I mean, you know, having a power fantasy, a wish fulfillment fantasy, being part of the X-Men from an adolescent/adult standpoint, you know?
Right, well, the failed fantasy sort of falling apart. And, man, the art is such a good fit, too, tonally. You know, Redmond's colors are saturated, bright, painterly. The art is bright. And we were talking, actually, before we recorded this about how the art kind of nails the best designs of the characters. It's a great visual mix and match.
Some of which are, you know, just sort of a greatest hits thing, and some of which are brand new. Like, I mean, I think we have to talk about Magneto.
Yes, and his amazing beard. I'm sorry, I guess this is going to be my thing this episode. But, yeah, no, Magneto has a... Obviously, I have a type. But...
It's Magneto? Oh, man!
Well, I mean, you guys have the same haircut and fancy beard right now, so there's that. But, no, Magneto looks awesome in this. Magneto looks so cool. The main character's design is actually one of the few that I have trouble with, and it's not because it's bad, it's because of the fact that he looks exactly like Kid Rusty Venture. Like, exactly.
He does!
To the point that I was actually talking to a friend about this, I have trouble thinking of him as anything but Rusty. He's got a name in the comic, and I think it's Bailey, but he's so solidly and completely Rusty in my head anytime he's on panel that, that just sort of overwrites.
Yeah. So anyway, plot. You know, the plot thickens. We saw Bailey kind of being made a pawn of the bad dudes last time. We see a bit more of this time. And him just being stuck in the middle of this, you know, with ideologues on either side, the X-Men on one, Magneto and his brotherhood on the other. Magneto making some very valid points, by the way. I'm just going to go ahead and say this is actually one of the more compelling portrayals of Magneto I've seen in terms of him getting across his way of looking at things.
Also with Xavier, incidentally.
Yes, Xavier's incredible.
So I am not a Charles Xavier apologist. You know this. This version of Xavier is, I feel like, the way we're supposed to see Xavier a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's a part near the end before everything goes pear-shaped where Xavier's just being like super down-to-earth and inspirational. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of getting chills. Like, I was buying into exactly what he was saying, because Charles Xavier, when he's not deadly genesising everything up, is an amazing, amazing character, an amazing person.
Speaking of amazing characters, how much do you want Miranda to stick around after
Miranda's amazing! I talked about her when I did the reviews last time.
She's so good! She's so great! She has the best superpowers, and the best contextual paralysis. Like, I want a team that's like her, Forget-Me-Not... I'm trying to think who else, but yeah.
Yeah, she's the one that can just alter reality, and so thus she can't do anything, just like Bailey's power is to explode once and die, and so he can't do anything. And also Rags and Riches, the other members of their little X-Squad thing. The characters are really, really strong in this. Like, I was not expecting to have a Greatest Hits X-Men book focus on 4 new characters, but it's doing it, and that's working really well.
It's doing it fantastically well, and again, man, I'm flipping through this as we're talking. The art is so spot on for that. It's so bright, and it's so clear and straightforward, and it so much feels like almost that extra bright, super saturated ideal of a superhero book, in the same way that, you know, this is sort of that version of the X-Men. And it works so well stylistically to underline that theme. Totally.
So I guess we've got 1 issue left of this. It's a 5-issue series. And I think it'll be out in print soon if you're a print-only person. If they can stick the landing, this is going to end up being one of the best X-Men miniseries ever.
And I should add, you know, we've mentioned with other digital-first titles that to go digital first. With this one, it doesn't really matter. It's obviously a print title that's being serialized digitally. It doesn't really make use of Infinite Comics.
Right, it's just, you know, a digital first. So either way, take your pick, but read it regardless. You owe it to yourself. And finally, we have our number 1 of the week, and the last number 1 of the mainstream Marvel Universe X-Men titles, for the time being. Old Man Logan, number 1, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino, and colors by Marcello Maiolo. So this book is basically a direct follow-up to the Secret Wars miniseries, Old Man Logan. Very similar feel, different writer, but same artist, and similarly, I really dig it. It's a flashback in a sense. It takes place, during the 8-month gap or right after Secret Wars or somewhere in there. But the point is before Extraordinary X-Men. So it's Logan having just arrived in the mainstream Marvel universe before everything went the hell the way it did in his timeline. And so seeing this just like savage, silent, naked old man in New York. I mean, you may have before, just not Logan.
I'm pretty sure that we've seen Logan naked. We've totally seen Logan naked in New York before.
Was it last year at Comic-Con?
No. I mean, at least once before, but at least indefinitely in the issue where he fights the Reavers with Lady Deathstrike.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And he's running around New York naked afterwards.
Well, Katie Powers not in this one.
No.
Anyway, we digress.
That's okay. You shouldn't have small children in your issues about Wolverine running around New York naked. That's risky territory.
It is. But just that sort of savage imagery, Wolverine just being silent and almost feral amid the cops trying to make him stop being scary, paired with the thoughtful, slow, almost tired dialogue and captions, Wolverine's internal monologue, works really well and really captures the deal with this character. I mean, he is this animalistic character who's just been pushed to the very limits of like violence and loss of control, but he's still Logan inside, and he's a Logan who is just done with this stuff and just doesn't want to deal with it anymore, but now has an opportunity to make sure that what he didn't want to deal with never happens.
So I don't disagree with anything you said, but at the same time, I'm having a lot of trouble drumming up enthusiasm for this book.
Really?
I like the creative team. I think they're doing a pretty good job, but I feel like the number of gritty, grimdark Logan stories we've had at this point and series we've had at this point, I don't feel like this is taking me anywhere new. It's doing a good job at what it's doing, and if that's something that you like, you'll like this book. But if you're looking for a really, new perspective on this character, you're not going to get it here. And I mean, to the point that one of the spreads, and this was almost our panel of the week, it wasn't, but I'm going to put it up anyway because it's gorgeous, is just a straight up riff on Frank Miller, and specifically on The Dark Knight Returns. And it fits because, it's that very specific style of grimdark, which, again, for Wolverine, just sort of feels very been there, done that. The Wild West trappings are cool. I like that. I think it's a good addition to the character. I think making him older works well.
Yeah.
But again, I put this book solidly in you will know before you open it whether it's the title for you.
For me, I think it is certainly a title for me. I mean, All New Wolverine is still my definitive Wolverine ever at this point.
Yeah, Laura Kinney is Wolverine in the end.
But this kind of a grim, gritty, sad, violent Wolverine story, that's been a part of the character's history almost since the beginning. I mean, certainly since the Chris Claremont, Frank Miller miniseries. And I think there's absolutely a place for that. And so seeing this version of the character done so well, I think there's absolutely room for. So 3 out of 3. Jay, what's our favorite issue?
I think our issue of the week this week is going to be Extraordinary X-Men number 6. It's really solid, but above all, it's kind of the number 1 that the series deserved.
I would completely agree. It's a great place to pick it up. It feels like a flagship book. It's got characters portrayed in ways that feel consistent with their past portrayals. Some sweet art by Ibanez. Yeah, good stuff.
What's our panel of the week?
Our panel of the week is actually from Old Man Logan. It's a pair of panels, as we so often cheat. But what makes this cool is not just the, cool scared bloody face and the neat sound effect with claws in it, but if you look at it, the claws are actually lined up with where they would be inside Wolverine. So it adds a neat sense of motion and instancy going from one panel to the next like that. It paces it well, and it turns a static medium into one where you can feel the movement that's going on. So we always like that kind of craft. Good example of it. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here but think it would be way better without the faces, check out our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher, and I think I was actually still out of town when you recorded this week, so what's coming up?
Well, I got together with Elizabeth Alley, who you may remember from our X-Men Alpha Flight episode a million years ago, and we talked about one of my favorite things of all of the things, which is the failed cartoon X-Men pilot from 1989, Pride of the X-Men.
Wow.
Yes, there's a lot to be said about it.
Did you do bad Australian accents?
Of course.
Excellent. That podcast, these video reviews, and everything you'll find at rachelandmiles.com are brought to you by our rad Patreon subscribers. We are an entirely listener-supported and ad-free project. If you want to join the fine folks who make that possible for us to do all of this, you can do that at the link either above or below this video, depending on where you're watching it.
Yes, indeed. In the meantime, we will see you next week with a couple more X-Men books.
Logan doesn't seem like the kind of guy who names his dick.
But I feel like other people do.
Yeah.
guy who's been around for that long.
Yeah,
he's got to have like
someone has
6
to.
names.
Yeah, I assume so.